After the first video, I came back to this block and decided I needed to change it. So you'll see that I did go ahead and make some changes here. I inserted another like heart image. It's the same type of SVG as these cookies and added it to this header since I left the embellishment out of the bottom. I ended up changing the background color of this for no real reason. And then I did adjust the spacing a little bit as I was playing around with things. I think I bolded her name so that it would be a little bit nicer. So I do think this looks a little bit more polished than the previous one. And next up, I want to do a video that goes through how to make a reader question. And I'll stick pretty close to this layout. It doesn't have any of the embellishments, so we don't have to work around that. We will have to figure out how to make this little bar here because that looks like a separator, but separators are normally like centered. So we'll have to do a little bit of a hack to get that to be off to one side. And then I did notice that there's something weird going on with spacing. So like paragraph, basically all these comments have extra spacing at the top and bottom. So this isn't quite aligned. So we can do like a little hack if we want to fix that, but ideally that would be something that like we submit to the plugin author, which is me. So in this particular case, I will try and fix this, but if you came across something like this with a block, it probably would be worth like asking the plugin author if that's supposed to happen or not, because it's so different from like how all other blocks work that I felt confused by it. So let me go ahead and get started on this one and we'll stick as close as possible. I'm going to do this one in pink since I switched this one to the blue. So again, I'm just going to press enter and insert a featured comment. We use the word feature a lot. So featured comment, this I want to be a question. And in this particular case, what I'm going to do is answer the question with the comment that answered it. So this is the question, and then I'm pretty sure, again, featured comment, these comments aren't specifically tied to the post they're being inserted in, so you have to search for like the exact comment you want. But I believe this is the question, this is the answer, so we just get lucky there. So I'm inserting both of these in our block that we're creating. For the example one here, this was actually something that was just manually written. Sorry, I was trying to select that text. This text was just manually written in the post. It wasn't an actual comment that went to the user. So you can do it either way where you manually answer something that's getting asked a lot inside of the post content. In this case, since it got answered in the comments section, maybe I'll move this over here. I'm going to just pull in that comment so I don't have to rewrite anything. And you'll see there's not like a user image. So I'm going to have to go ahead and pull an image for Tessa, and then we'll do some coloring and this header. So I'm selecting this item here. Basically, I know that that's this featured comment and I want to put a title underneath it so I can press enter. And then reader question. This time I'll show you what it looks like if we do it as a heading. So headings are automatically, at least in this theme, they're styled differently. So you're going to get that styling. And then if you want it to be something a little more plain, then you have to come in and actually customize that. So let me say that I want that to be system font. I'm going to make it smaller. Maybe this, and then I want it to be bold. You can also do bold through here, but I usually just prefer to do it here because this is a system font, and so it has lots of different like weights, and bold is just bold. So I tend to apply it there. I know that I need a separator, and you'll see that's centered, so we're gonna have to kind of try and fix that. I know I'm gonna want this featured comment to have a white background. Well, you won't be able to see it right now, so to get all of these to have a shared background, I need to group them together. We said we're going to make this one, let's do this shade of pink. It's a little dark. We'll do this lighter one. I like it better. Add that padding that we want all around. And then this now, this featured comment, I'm going to add the white background so that it stands out a little bit more. Padding. All right, so these were automatically centered. I want this to be left aligned. I'll have to figure out how to get Tessa to be left aligned in a little bit. Same with Natalie, I guess. Okay, so I'll probably end up grouping these in order to get this to be left aligned, unless I can do it here. Yeah, there we go. This featured comment has alignment. So you can see there's like this weird extra spacing. That's what I was talking about with some of that like padding, like height on the text. So we'll do some hacks to improve that. I think I'll work top down now because it's mostly spacing. I guess with the exception, we really do need to add an image, and that'll be Tessa's image. And I believe she's holding a cookie in one of these images. No, we've got an egg. Oh yes, an egg, because the question is about separating eggs. So this is going to be perfect. Let me adjust this a little bit. So based on this as our inspiration, I want a circular image. And to make a circular image, like an actual circle, it has to be a square first, because let me apply border radius to this. That's not what I want. So I need to make sure I set the aspect ratio to square. Now I've got an actual circle. And I think we'll come back to this. We'll go top down and finish out layout now that I believe we have all the content we need. So first up, I have this reader question in the separator. To have the separator pull to the left, I do weird stuff with groups. I never know exactly what I'm doing, but I know I've tested it, and sometimes I can get it to left align. So in this case, just switching it to a row, left aligned it, perfect. And I want there to be like tighter spacing right here. So I'm going to group those so I can change the gap between just the two of them. I think this one here. Okay, so we've got reader question. Now I want to go into this featured comment. You can see that like at the top of this blue outline, there's space before this comment content. Or I guess maybe this is where the space is. Anyway, that space like shouldn't be there. So that's what's weird. So I'm going to have to like adjust my spacing just to make this look good in our example. That's a little bit like outside of the norm. But ideally, if something like this was happening, that's when you would contact the plugin author and confirm whether they're going to fix it or not. Because essentially, when I set up spacing for this particular block, when the plugin updates and fixes this like spacing error, then I'm not going to have enough spacing in any of these blocks. So that's why you want to make sure like that this isn't going to change. If it's weird and it's messed up and it's going to get fixed, have them do that before you like hack your spacing. But we're going to hack our spacing. So first of all, I'm going to tighten up the spacing between this comment and Natalie. I'll probably just remove it all. Yeah, since there's that, gap that we don't want in there. And then it looks like, so to decrease the spacing between reader question and this like featured comment, I can't like just manually change it. You can use margin top to increase spacing, but you usually, oh, this one will let me decrease it actually. Sometimes that doesn't work. But I'm not going to use that because I find it a little confusing. I think I'm going to just decrease spacing. I'm trying to look. I guess I might need to because of this one comment content spacing problem. Okay, let's use margin top in this scenario. I usually like gap because it's going to change all of the spacing and you're not manually changing every margin top. But since I think this is something weird in just this case, okay, I think I like this spacing because I don't want this to be too close and then Natalie to have this large gap. Speaking of which, I don't like when this is different font sizes, so we're going to change them both to small. Dimensions box, I can't do that in here. I guess I'm going to have to group these. So I'm going to have to group these, or I'm going to have to change them one by one. It doesn't super matter. It kind of is your workflow and your preference. Appearance, I'm going to make that bold again because I liked the other one. Is that bold or semi-bold? Okay, looks great. I think I like this. We'll come back to the spacing a little bit later. Like maybe I do want to have smaller spacing between these here. Okay, so this is going to be a little fun. Here's something that looks like it's going to work, but won't. What I could do is for this featured comment, put all of these items in a row so that they're all side by side. And then if I want something to be like top down, I can create another group. And so basically like I could have these side by side and it looks like I could like, here, let me show you. set this to 80, I would reposition things to look a little better. And this is about what it would look like. But I'm going to show you on the front end that that image doesn't actually end up being 80 pixels, which is like a thing with rows. Oh, sorry. It saves really slowly right now. So we're just going to wait. I guess I can talk to you a little bit about, so rows won't have like fixed widths for its content. So even though we said that we want this image to be 80 pixels, it's going to try and like fit everything the best it can. And so like, look at how small this image got. And we don't want that. So in cases where like you need your content to be like fixed sizes, you can't have it like kind of flow. We actually are going to use columns. So for this row, I'm just going to say I want to switch it to columns. It's going to give me one column that now has that row inside of it. I don't really need the row formatting anymore. So if I ungroup that, it'll have my content. This group, I need to be in a separate column. So inside of columns, add a second column, and then I can move this group into that column. Hopefully. Maybe, there we go. Of course, now there's no reason for it to be grouped. You could leave it grouped, but I'm going to ungroup it because I don't think I need that. And then my columns are set to 50% each. I am going to change this to maybe 20. I have columns set to stack on mobile, so I don't have to worry about like on mobile that 20% would be teeny tiny. So we'll do 20 and 80, and then this image, I want it to take up the whole 20%. So I'm just going to delete, and it'll resize to whatever the 20% is. So this looks pretty good. I've got that spacing up top here that I don't like. So I'm going to fix the spacing because I don't approve. And I'm also going to change this like we did on the other author. I think we use semi-bold. Another way you could do that, by the way, is you can just copy this block and then come down here and paste styles. So this is looking pretty good. Let me see. I think I'm going to go ahead and hack the spacing here so we can get this to be aligned. So I went on the front end previously and I looked to see that like margin is being added to the top of this. And I believe it's margin, like the number is 40, which equates to small. Reader question. Let me look at this real quick. So you don't have to know all this. I do this because I'm extra. Here's where is that margin? Okay, so on the paragraph, there is a margin top. Where are you? Margin block. Oh, it's just one. Okay, so we can't actually rely on mathing here because it's not using numbers we can math with, which doesn't matter because that's probably not interesting to you anyway. What I do know is there's too much space and I need to remove space up here while adding space here so that everything works the way I want it to. So what I'm going to do is remove padding on the top and bottom so that it is closer to where I really want it to be, which is maybe there. I'm going to go with this. Maybe that spacing looks pretty good to me. And let me do custom because I need more spacing down here. So it's getting real weird now, right? Something like that. Oops. Then this is too far down, so I do need to add margin top here. Again, this is really like, I'm showing you how you can hack stuff right now, but you wouldn't need to do this in most cases. So margin top can't be applied to this image, but you can group it and then you can apply it to the group. Margin top. Perfect, actually. And then I'm going to decrease the spacing between because it just looks like a really large gap. So the spacing between these columns. Columns have two types of spacing, the spacing that you see on desktop, and then when it's stacked, the spacing that you see on mobile. So by default, mobile's going to be like everything's going to be right here unless you override this setting. So I think I'd have to check it on the front end, but I'm just going to set small for both of them. I think this looks pretty decent. The spacing's not exactly even on the top and the sides. So I would have to maybe like see if I like that more. I guess I do. And then I'm not sure exactly how I feel about all the spacing, like font sizes and spacing here, but we will look on the front end and kind of make our mind up there. Okay, I do think I like the size of this gap being larger, but Natalie feels too far away. So I'm going to tighten up that. Same with Tessa, that's a large gap I wasn't thinking about. I feel like Tessa maybe needs more space under her name here. And once I tighten this up, maybe I would want this smaller. I feel like reader questions really large, so I think I might make reader questions smaller as well. So reader question, we set that to large. Let's make it medium. To decrease the space between this comment and the name, we'll come back up to just whatever parent container it's in. And again, if the parent container doesn't have all the options you need, group it. Groups have all the options you need. So oh, that was set to 0. That's the smallest I can get that. Okay, well then we're going to keep that. Since I can't make this smaller, I might make this larger. So the margin top on this, just increase that a tiny bit, and then that might make this spacing all feel relatively better. Spacing between Tessa and the featured comment, go into that parent. Decrease block spacing. Okay. And then I was thinking a little more spacing after Tessa's name. Where's my padding applied? It's a lot more spacing. I think I still might like it better. So actually, let me check to see that this is saved. And then I think we'll be done with this one. I think this was a good example because we had to make a lot of groups. We used columns instead of just our regular group to do some layout, kind of explored images. But then you saw how like complex things can get if you've got a lot of like detailed spacing that you want to do. So we're going to refresh this. You can see reader question. Now I'm not sure about all this sizing here, but I think it looks okay. Spacing, kind of like larger gaps than I would fully like, but I'm adding those in a couple places. So largest gap down here, one right here, and then I'm not sure how I feel about reader question, but I think I'm going to leave it for now. So interestingly, like this is not a header and this is a header, and you really can't tell. The whole reason that we want to do headers is for like semantics and accessibility, and it goes into certain functionality such as our table of contents. So we've got reader love and reader question. And then if I open the table of contents up here, we should see, okay, reader question's the very first thing. Was not expecting that. Reader question is in there, and it's because it's a header, an H2, but reader love is not because we didn't set that as an H2. And so if someone was coming through that was using like a screen reader, they wouldn't be able to jump to like reader love and see what's underneath it. The first heading they would see would be reader question. So kind of got to think about those pieces of headings when you're inserting those and styling them, because you don't want to set a header for something just because you like the header style. Now with block editing, it's super easy to create a header style or vice versa, no matter what the text is set at. Paragraph, heading, whatever. So I think I'm good with this. You can see we've created 2 different stylized blocks from what starts out as a very plain block, which all of blocks that are like core Gutenberg block theme blocks are, I'm just throwing in keywords now, are going to do. They're going to start very plain and you'll stylize them. So hopefully this gives you some insight into how blocks can be styled, into how like this particular plugin works. And then if you're not using a block theme, kind of gets you excited about the potential for switching to that.